Hi, and welcome to Trust and Obey with Chuck Frank. We are studying the Book of Ruth, and this is the final chapter of that book. This is chapter 4 of the Book of Ruth, and this is one of my favorite books of the Bible. I especially like it because our current academic class loves to say that the Bible is, who knows, folklore from antiquity. It's about patriarchy. It's about keeping women down. And certainly this book is about 3 women in dire straits and with very little legal right. And Ruth is the lowest of the low because she is a pagan woman, widow from Moab, and she is committed completely, utterly, unselfishly committed to her late husband's mother, her mother-in-law, Naomi. And Ruth sets the bar so high in terms of personal integrity, in terms of having no expectation from anyone. She just minds her own P's and Q's, and the choices she makes are always choices that glorify God and exemplify a selflessness for the people around her that she loves. So she is an amazing role model, not just for women, for all of us, for every believer. And she is in the line of Jesus Christ. And God puts all kinds of people who are way down on the social strata in the line of Jesus Christ. So let's take a look at this. It's absolutely fascinating. It says, now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there. Now, what does that mean? That means that in Bethlehem, at the entrance to the city, there was a main gate that they could close for security. So that was the gate where everyone came in every day, people wanting to do business, people wanting to make investments, all of that, and all business was transacted by the gate. So when it says Boaz went to the gate and sat down there, he's letting everybody know, I have something important to transact today. I'm at the gate. I know there'll be other important people at the gate, and so I'm going to assemble a group so that I have witnesses who watch me transact this business. So Boaz went to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So we don't even get to know this guy's name, but he is closer to Naomi than Boaz is. And so that means that he has the right to be the kinsman redeemer. He gets first crack at purchasing the land that Naomi inherited from her husband, Elimelech. It would have been choice because it had been in their family for a long time. And get the sense that Boaz knows way more about the cards everybody else is holding than he lets on. So it says, so Boaz said, come aside, friend, sit down here. This is what we call a setup. So he came aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. Just happened to be 10 elders of the city? No, this is why it's a setup. Boaz has these guys ready to go, and they are unquestionable witnesses. So they, the elders, sat down. Then he said to the close relative, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, Buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants and the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, but if you will not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know. For there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you. So Boaz is a guy who does everything by the letter of the law. He really wants this land. He really wants to have Ruth as a wife. He's a single older man. He has no kids. He lives a somewhat lonely life, even though he has a wonderful agricultural business. It's empty. And no, despite the fact that he desperately wants this, he will not try to force an issue. So he's giving the person who is closer to Naomi the first pick, the first chance. So he says, if you will redeem it, then you redeem it. But if you're not going to redeem it, let me know, because I'm the next in line after you. So everybody knows that he's straight up and up about this whole thing. Nothing's been hidden. No detail of this deal has been hidden. And he said, I will redeem it. So that's the first guy. We don't have a name for him. He says, I'll redeem it. I want that land. Then Boaz said, this is interesting how he makes the offer. First, he baits him with the land, and then he goes, yeah, there's something else you have to deal with. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance. Now, that doesn't mean a lot to us, but in this situation, it means you have to take Ruth along with the deal, and you have to try to procreate with Ruth. And if you're lucky enough to have a son with Ruth, he's not going to carry your name. He is going to carry the name of Ruth's dead husband, and that will be another leg of inheritance. And the close relative said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. So I think there's something going on here with this guy and who he married and what kind of assets his wife's family has. He's not going to share it with a pagan widow from Moab or any offspring. This will ruin all of his plans. So as desperately as he wanted the land, he is not going to take any chances with making trouble in his own marriage and with the inheritance coming from his wife's people. So now this was the custom. So he has said to Boaz, you do it. I can't do it. You go ahead and do it. In fact, the whole idea seems to scare him. He went from, I want it, to you redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now, this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm anything, one man took off his sandal and gave it to the other. And this was a confirmation in Israel. So you have to remember, this is a long time ago, like 3,000, 2,500 years ago. And this is how the law was transacted, with physical witnesses to hear what the terms were, that everyone understood the terms. And then when the person who's giving up something confirms that he understands and he's willing to do it, he takes off his sandal and gives it to the person who is purchasing. Therefore, the close relative said to Boaz, buy it for yourself. So he took off his sandal. This guy, all of a sudden, he got very nervous. He doesn't want this getting back to his wife. And I'm just filling this in. The Bible doesn't tell us this, but there's all these witnesses. When all these elders gather, it means a whole bunch of other people now gather around because they want to say, oh, yes, I was a witness too on that transaction, right? It raises their status somehow, even though they're standing on the periphery. But they all know what happened, and they're all going to run home. Remember, there's no Netflix. This kind of stuff is what they talk about all day. So he took off his sandal, and Boaz said to the elders and all the people, you are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's, one of his sons, and Mahlon's, his other son, from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day. This is what the academics say is a patriarchy, that Ruth has no say in this. If land is purchased and this guy agrees that he's taking Ruth along with it, then Ruth's just acquired a new husband. And she knows Boaz. She's been the beneficiary of his goodwill. She also knows he's a lot older than her, and she is making a completely unselfish choice so that she can take care of Naomi, so that she can take care of Boaz, and so that she can provide for herself also. But there were a lot of other ways she could have done that. She is apparently a beautiful young woman. She has very high integrity. She's very bright, and she understands things quickly. Those are all qualities that God is choosing to bless, but in a very unconventional way. Let's see. And all the people who were at the gate, now there's a crowd, and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah. Those are the two wives of Jacob who gave birth to the sons who become the 12 tribes of Israel. So this is a big wish of goodwill that Ruth would be like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel. And may you prosper in Ephrathah. That was the old original city in Bethlehem, and be famous in Bethlehem. So they're saying all throughout the city, may you prosper. And may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. So this is another terrible situation that is in the line of Jesus Christ, in the line of King David. And God is a God of great detail. And so when he chooses these women who are in difficult situations, he is showing us that he absolutely is behind these women and that he blesses the choices that they have to make, and he is guiding their steps. And so forget about the patriarchy. This is everybody who is succumbing to the will of God to have a Messiah born way into the future. But very significant in terms of how this lineage is put together. This book says that man's wisdom is foolishness to God. God's wisdom is foolishness to man. Can you imagine if there was a committee of affluent people who were going to decide what marriages would come up with the Messiah? And instead, God picks pagan women and widows and prostitutes, and everything is in this mix because he's trying to say to us, you guys judge by all those externalities. And all those externalities are just that. They're the effects of a person trying to survive in a particular environment. But God says, I see the heart. And so it doesn't matter whether the person's a pagan, a prostitute, a widow, whatever. God sees the heart of the person. And in this book, Ruth is the absolutely amazing character in this book and sets the bar high for us as a model. And Boaz is pretty awesome too. So what a great combination for a husband and wife to further the line towards King David and Jesus Christ. Let's continue. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative. So they're saying this was part of the law that God gave us, so that a widow would not be bereft, but that there may be a kinsman redeemer within the family who can step up and provide for her. So they're saying, and may his name be famous in Israel. Okay, they're talking about Boaz. And may he be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you is better to you than 7 sons has borne him. So she's saying, he's a restorer of life. You lost your husband and your 2 sons, but now you have this beautiful grandson. And you have this daughter-in-law who was the fulcrum point of all of this happening, and we all watched it. We watched her. We saw her come into town with you as a pagan. We saw her embrace the faith of Judaism and worshiping the one true God and dropping all these pagan gods. And God blessed her. And look at the fruit that has come from all of her wonderful choices. She's better to you than 7 sons. How is this a patriarchy, this book? There was nothing more important for a woman in Israel than to bear a son. And these women are saying, this pagan woman is better than 7 sons. Look at what God has done through her. It's an amazing paragraph. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. So she's nursing and helping Ruth as Ruth is tending to Boaz. Also, the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now, this last paragraph is the genealogy of Perez, because this whole book is about God saying, I'm going to establish a line from 2 of the characters in this book, actually 3, to all the way to King David, who I will make a promise in the future that from his loins will come the Messiah, the Savior. So, verse 18. Now, this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron, begot Ram. And Ram begot Abinadab, begot Nahshon. And Nahshon begot Salmon. And Salmon begot Boaz. And Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. So it's important to God that we see all these linkages, that we see that he has had a plan from the formation of the earth to the birth of Jesus Christ. And he saw the whole thing from beginning to end. So again, what's the lesson for us? 2025 is looking to be a significant year in the history of America. We've gone through a crazy 7 years in America with all kinds of demonic activity and all kinds of challenges to our liberties, our freedoms, and to our Constitution. Everything that the founders were concerned might happen and destroy this country. We came all the way to the rim of the precipice of that destruction, and we'll see what God has in mind for us for 2025. But this book is a hope for us, because these three women we meet in the first chapter had a far more dire situation than we have at the end of 2024. And we don't know if the insane swamp creatures are going to use Ukraine to get us into a nuclear World War III. I certainly hope not. But they are willing to kill hundreds and thousands of people for money and power and to stop Donald Trump from becoming president. God has his hand over all this. He already knows what the end of all this is. And so we simply have to have faith like Ruth and not be thinking about ourselves, but thinking about what is the will of God in all this, and I'm going to trust in that, and I am going to make the choices that glorify him. Thank you for studying this book. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a book to return to over and over again. And you'll continue to find more and more in it. God bless you.